Right then, DB. Who's had the better season, Scottie or Xander?
Well, that is certainly up for debate. Welcome to the No Ifs, Putts and Bogeys podcast. We are a no-nonsense, straight-talking golf podcast discussing all the hot topics in the world of golf. This podcast is brought to you in association with Barretto Golf, a stylish, affordable golf clothing brand. Please visit barrettogolf.com for all the latest offers. That's BARRETO golf.com for all the latest offers. This podcast is also brought to you on behalf of the Golfer Gang Network. Please do go check out some of the other golfing podcasts. And without further ado, I will pass you on to your host, O-Dub.
Good evening, gentlemen. Back again. I think this is my third one, is it? I'm losing track already. I'm having such
fourth,
a good
mate.
time.
You can't bloody keep
Yeah,
away.
it's your fourth, mate. 4 pods.
Wow. Guys, happy to be here. What a weekend of golf we've had. Before I logged on, I looked at my Sky Go playtime on my iPad, and it's 19 and a half hours since Friday.
Amazing. I think you've watched more than me, that's for sure, over the weekend.
I've just found it fascinating. Like it's like reading a novel. Like your characters developing. There's been a few deaths along the way, particularly after Friday. That's how golf works. It's been great. I'm
absolutely loving this. I'm loving this.
This, guys, for people who are listening, is someone quite literally that before they joined this podcast had absolutely zero idea about golf. Never really watched it before, O-Dub?
No, I try and watch like the Sunday of a major. I always try and watch Augusta, as discussed last week. It's the green jacket, the one I'd like to win. I don't think I've ever watched the PGA, US Open. I probably caught a bit of it, and the Open as well, bits and bobs. But I didn't watch much Thursday, but Friday my partner was working away, worked till midday, as you guys know. So I just had it on pretty much constantly.
Well, good. I'm absolutely delighted to hear that, O-Dub.
So we'll talk more about it as we get on, but there'll be bits and bobs that I remember. You guys might have to help me with names and things like that, but I loved it. What a competition! Only just finished a couple of hours ago, didn't it, as well, guys? So we're hot.
Yeah, this is live reaction. This is on the verge of an emergency pod, really, because what a 4 days of golf it's been. I think the fact that we build it and others build it as the most unpredictable major lived true to absolutely everything that happened in the last 4 days. It was up and down, and the weather and some of the golf that was on show was just fucking mental, to be honest with you. So I actually, like, so much has gone on. I actually don't really know where to start.
Agree. But I've got a point which I can start with, because we had a debate on the preview show about what's the best major in which we would prefer to win. And I said the Open Championship. And do you not think that after 4 days that we've just witnessed, that Xander Schauffele winning, is that not better than anything else that's happened this year? Surely. The Open Championship is the best golf tournament on the planet, and it is the thing that you want to win the most. You can shove your green jacket for me. You want to be Open champion. That's what you want to be.
That 4 days of golf will be up there, I believe, with some of the hardest 4 days of golf anyone could ever play in. I mean, I know that we've seen majors won on bigger scores of, like, people have won it on like +1 and +2 and +3 and stuff like that previously. But that there, I think Dustin Johnson, I think Scottie Scheffler, just off the top of my head, a few of the others, said the back 9 yesterday afternoon was the toughest 9 holes they've played in their career. Now, that's a current world number one, a former world number one, both major winners saying that. I think that sums up what some of these guys have had to put up with over the course of the 4 days.
Yeah, and that's partly, obviously, links golf is a completely different kettle of fish to the rest of the calendar year that most of the players play. but also you just have to throw in the variables that come with links golf are so different to all the other tournaments, including the majors, that it creates this type of drama. And then when you're standing on the 18th green, you're lifting the Claret Jug. That is surely the most satisfying thing in the sport for me. I would absolutely love to be the Open champion. I honestly, I think I was right. I respect your opinions in the preview show, but I'm definitely right, and I think the last 4 days has proved that.
I think from what I saw and my limited knowledge of golf, what I do, I've dabbled in the majors. That by far looked the hardest one to win. Augusta's a tough course, but the weather's usually brilliant. There's not a lot of variables in it, but that Friday especially just looked like hell. But we'll come on to that more in a minute. But shall we start off? Only one place to start, really. Xander, Shugfley winning the jug.
Yeah, I have to say, first and foremost, some of our shouts in the last pod were absolutely horrendous. So starting from me, I think I said, out of the 3 current major winners or major holders, Bryson would be the only one that would potentially go on and win a second this year, which would be the Open. He finished on like +8 and missed the cut after 2 days. I think I may have also said, I'll have to go back and listen to it, but I think I also said, definitely not Xander. I think I said, maybe Scottie, but definitely not Xander. No, not him. Not that guy. Also, all of our tips, I think, were pretty shocking, but we'll probably come on to that in a minute.
Yeah, well, no, you brought it up now, so let's just run through it. So I think out of all, so we did 9 tips, and I think only 3 of them made the cut, which was Odub's shout of John Rahm and my shout of Colin and Aaron Rye. Aaron Rye made the cut, but did absolutely nothing since. Colin was inside the top 20 for majority of the week, but then did nothing really today to get into a placing. So congrats to Odub for his first tip on the podcast. Is the only one that's paid out in John Rahm. Had surprisingly a very good tournament, which I say it's a surprise because he's had an awful year. So the fact that he's rocked up at Troon in the most difficult conditions and finished inside the top 8 is kudos to him. So, and also fair play to Odub for calling the best placing this year.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
you've kept the run going, because with that means that there has been a no-ifs, putts or bogeys tip that has placed or won for all 4 majors this year. So round of applause for everyone, but especially to Odub for keeping the run going this week.
Thanks, guys. I mean, we spoke a little bit this morning about it, but he did birdie the first 3, and I thought, we're on here.
Yeah.
But,
I thought you were going to do a madness for the boys, but look, we got to talk about Xander. What a fucking 4 days of golf this guy's had. I have to say, I've got a lot of respect for him as a golfer, and one of the reasons why, and it's kind of like the opposite reasons, or the complete opposite reasons for why I like Bryson, is in a weird way. Like, Bryson's like such a maverick, such a crowd pleaser, taking selfies, doing signatures, fucking entertaining everyone the whole time. I'm not saying Xander's not entertaining, but he's a very understated character, very calm, very measured, doesn't give a lot away at any point, and just fucking goes about his business. And I have to say, what a golfer this guy is.
I think the floodgates are well and truly open now.
I mean,
he picked up 2. I think before the PGA or after the PGA when he won, we spoke about how many top 10s and top 5s he's had in majors without getting over the line. And he obviously eventually did that at the PGA. And now he's collected his second major win today. So yeah. I think, the floodgates have well and truly opened. He's going to be finishing as a winner in many more majors over the next few years, I think.
I mean, yeah, and today on itself, absolutely clutch, because he was pretty steady in the first 3 rounds. I think he went 2 under, 1 over, 1 under, and then
Yeah, he was kind of always thereabouts, but actually not
Yeah.
really looking like he was in contention. And then today he's just blown up. And
Today he shot 6 under on the final day of the major, where the conditions have been all over the gaff, and he just never really looked in trouble, to be honest. At any point, it was so cool, calm, collected. Even like when he won, like he wasn't in the final group. There's still a few on the course. He kind of just went in, did a scorecard, sat in the room for a little bit, and then they were just like, "Oh yeah, he's won," and he sort of went, he looked at
Nice,
it, and then he came out and he was like, "Oh, thanks very much, guys. Yeah, it's a real honor. Like, yeah, cheers." And that was it. And he was just he was just chill, like the whole thing. It's quite fascinating to watch.
It's unbelievable. And of course, he is the current reigning Olympic champion, and that's the next major event. And so he could be, defending his Olympic gold medal and being a 2-time major winner in the same season. Got a few stats, so I'll reel these off really quickly. So he's the first player to win 2 majors in a season since Brooks Koepka. So in 2018, Brooks won the PGA and the US Open. He's the first player since Jordan Spieth in 2015 to have won his first 2 majors in the same season. So Spieth won the Masters and then a month later won the US Open in 2015 as his first 2 majors. And then the other one, which we actually mentioned on the preview about Rory being the last player to have won the PGA and the Open Championship in the same year. And also, so just anybody winning a major and the Open in the same year was Rory. And so Xander has done the same too. And I think it was at that point where DB said Xander's got no chance. So, but we spoke that into sort of, we had some good stats in the preview, and a lot of those things have come true. Final one being it's been the clean sweep of American winners for the first time since 1982. So I feel like maybe we sort of spoke that into existence as well on our preview show.
They mentioned the 1982 thing, and it made me think about the good times we had last week talking about it. I don't know if we can get Dan saying Xander has no chance clipped up on the socials. I think that'd be pretty good to get that out there this week.
We can probably arrange that. Definitely. I think
I've got a few stats about Xander as well.
One sec. Just on that 1982 stat, right? We obviously recorded the pod last Monday night, and then I didn't actually see that on anything. I didn't see it on Sky or on BBC Sport until Friday. So I like to sort of claim that stat as being really good research from us on the pod, and the fact that we recorded it on Monday, published it on Wednesday, and the main sort of 2 broadcasters in the UK hadn't brought it up until like midway through the tournament.
Yeah, so do you know, I don't know if you'll know this, but a lot of news channels in general, like white label their news, get the news from another company called Reuters, which is another news company, so they'll pay them for their news and then release like footage and headlines and stuff like that. So shout out Sky Sports or the Golf Channel in the USA. If you ever want any breaking, top-notch stats, you can reach out to No Ifs, Putts or Bogeys podcast. I'm willing to entertain the conversation. I'm sure we can agree a fee, but we are going to claim that stat, and we did break that first. Yeah. So, well done, AB, for that. Kudos to you, my friend.
You're welcome, boys. You're welcome. Anyway, go on. Odab, I pissed on your fireworks there, but you come up with some facts now. Come on.
Sky, welcome on the pod anytime. Rupert Murdoch, if he's still going, he can come too. So Xander, he boasts 4 legal nationalities, DB.
This is true.
American, obviously, and Taiwanese from his father's side.
Okay.
And from his mother's side, German and French. So quite a mixed
bag. I knew American and German, but I just assumed they were both his dad.
I think that's the other way around, Odub. I think his father's German. And his mother's
you're right, because he was a Olympic. He did some decathlon, something like that, was it?
Yeah.
Could tell.
Anyway.
And one for you as well, DB. Xander's workout routine focuses on speed intervals and core. He's into fun exercise like medicine ball slams. That makes him loose and strong at the same time.
I have been known to do a few of those in the gym.
Yeah, nice.
So maybe one day I'll hit the ball like Xander.
Maybe you will. Maybe you'll have a German father as well, but I don't think so.
No,
yeah, so then my stats. Stats on Xander. Got a few more to come later on.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bloke's done an absolute madness. He's won 2 majors in 1 season. Another guy who's having a fantastic season, which has been spoken about a lot, and people may have got carried away, may not have got carried away. We will soon find out. But obviously, he won the first major of the year. He also has won 6 other tournaments, I think, this year. And he's the current world number 1, having amassed probably about nearly just shy of $30 million in prize money. But years down the line, when you get asked the question in 2024, who's had the better season, Xander Schauffele, 2-time major winner, or Scottie Scheffler, what's the answer?
Well, so as you say, I'll just recap the pair of them, their seasons to date. So today being the final day of the last major championship, but there is, of course, there's still the Olympic Games and also the FedEx Cup playoffs and all that to come still. And also, I think there's a President's Cup potentially as well in September. But basically, Scottie Scheffler, you said he's won 6 times on the PGA Tour this year, one of those being the Masters. And in the other 3 majors, he's come in the top 10 twice, and he's won about just under 28 million, right? So Xander has had only 2 wins on tour, but both of them have been majors, being the PGA and the Open Championship. But in the other 2, the Masters and the US Open, he's also finished 7th and 8th, I think. So he's had 2 wins and 2 top 10s across all 4 majors. He's won 12.7 million-ish, so just under 13 million. So, half of the earnings that Scheffler's won. But I think I'm right in saying that I think they're 1 and 2 in the world now. They're definitely 1 and 2 in the FedEx Cup.
They are 1 and 2.
Scottie is still number 1 in the FedEx Cup. And like we say, we've got the Olympics to come in a couple of weeks, and then the FedEx Cup playoffs. So, Player of the Year is definitely between those 2. Like, there's no question.
I'd like to hear, before either myself or you answer, I'd like to hear O-Dub's take as a golfing neutral.
Yeah.
Well, I thought at least for the first 2 days, I thought at least one of them was doing very well because I was at the top of the leaderboard because their names are very similar. And I thought I thought they were the same person. So that's good. I think it's got to be Xander. I think got 2 majors. I think majors trumps your FedEx Cup, which I get that's money earned, right? Isn't it? So most.
Yeah. Well, just a brief. I mean, it's still to come this year, but the FedEx Cup is basically the calendar season of the PGA Tour. Yeah, and it's based on the ranking points in the money list, basically. And then in the end, the top 30 will have a playoff, and then whoever wins that sort of playoff.
Yeah, doesn't the top money earner get like some strokes already or something? Is that right?
Yeah.
It'll
be a handicap.
I know.
Yeah.
Talking about
so your answer's Schauffele.
Yeah, it's got. I just think majors above money, anything. It's the majors, isn't it?
I'd agree with you, mate. I mean, I don't have to say it anymore, but I'm going to. But if you're the Open champion, you're in the conversation for Player of the Year anyway. But to have also been the PGA champion, to win your first 2 majors in the same season, to top 10 in the other 2, he's been. I think we said about Bryson being, going into the Open, he was leading sort of the aggregate score to par. And he was also in the top 10 and won the US Open. But he's missed the cut this weekend. So technically, in terms of the majors, I think Scottie was 40th or something in the US Open. So although he's won the Masters and been top 10 in the other 2, his PGA Tour wins, there's been some big events there, but they are just regular PGA events. I think it has to be Schauffele at the moment. At this point, he has currently had a better season, despite Scheffler doing things that, you know, the likes of Arnold Palmer and Tiger Woods, they're the only like sort of people that have done it. Some of the things that Scheffler has achieved this year, I would rather be in Schauffele's position personally.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would just say that some of the tournaments that Scheffler has won this year, I wouldn't personally call regular PGA events. They are some of the elevated events to like the Arnold Palmer, the Players. You know, they're big. There's one big PGA tour, but it's 2 majors. At the end of the day, your career is judged, whether anyone likes it or not, on your majors, right? Yeah. And it just is. You go down who's the greatest golfer of all time, and it's a bit of a sticky one because I probably would say Tiger Woods, and he's not got the most majors. But generally, you look at the major winners list first, and for Xander to get 2 in 1 year, some people don't get 2 in their career. Some people don't get 1 in their career. So to get 2 in 1 year and 1 be the Open, and in the manner and the fashion in which he's done it both, like the last, I was sort of thinking this was going to be a really interesting Sunday at the Open, but actually the last 4 or 5 holes were fairly redundant because
it's ended up being a very comprehensive finish, despite majority of the day and the week, the whole tournament being full of drama. You're right. He's ended up winning at a canter.
Well, his back 9, he shot 4 under. Which is...
and let's not forget on the PGA Championship that he's won, he broke the major record in terms of low score. So
absolutely, I think fair fucks, Xander. You are without doubt my golfer of the year this year, regardless of what happens at the FedEx Cup. I think you've won 2 majors, you've done the business, you've done it in a professional, cool, calm, collected manner. And to be fair to him, he said in this speech, I just watched it, and he said, it's not really sunk in yet. I don't really know what I've done, but it just looked like, in a weird way, he looked like he didn't really give a fuck. Like, do you know what I mean? He was a bit like, well, you know.
Which is what he does now. Yeah. Once you get that first one out of the way, it becomes, you know, there's been a lot of people in sort of the last 10 years or so that have won multiple majors. And obviously we've mentioned that, you know, he was sort of in the group of high profile players that were yet to get over the line, but he's done it twice in 2 months now. And I think going into next year, you know, it's going to be him, Scheffler, it's going to be all those guys again. And it would be no surprise if he was to win a few more over the next few years. He is definitely up there at the moment as being one of the best alongside Scottie.
I would agree.
We're all in agreement.
So
we've already mentioned he's the defending Olympic champion, haven't we? I think we.
Yes.
Maybe. We'll probably do a separate pod for the Olympics, won't we? In a bit of a chat.
Yeah. Well, it's the next sort of high-profile thing that's going to happen. I think I think the Olympics starts on Friday, so at some point in the next 2 to 3 weeks, at some point in the next 2 to 3 weeks, it will be the main event in golf. So next week maybe we'll do a preview show on that, because it's actually an unbelievable field. It's kind of like a condensed major when you actually look at the field.
Yeah, when you break it down, I think there's 64 players and there's a significant amount of the world top sort of 20 to 50 in it.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I look forward to talking about that. So we've mentioned we've mentioned Ram, haven't we? Some other notable mentions. I'd just like to kick this off. You were talking about Xander being really cool and calm throughout it. But I know we mentioned it earlier and you'll have to remind me of his name. But the French guy who just hacked it in.
On Thursday afternoon, I think it was Romain Langasque.
That's it, yeah.
So he sacked it off on Thursday afternoon after 7 holes, I think 6 or 7 holes, and the footage is quite funny.
It's
I've
fucking.
seen a clip, and his head's just gone. He's just like, nah, I've had enough already.
His head's gone, and the commentary are talking, and they're like they were sort of suggesting he ain't long for this world, and then he sees that come off, and he's just like goes to shake his hand. He's like, not for me.
So I think he was on about +3 through 6 or 7 holes.
Yeah, it was +3, wasn't it? It wasn't.
Which is not dramatic.
It's not terrible when you see some of the other scores that were knocking around. There was actually a Japanese guy on day 2, can't remember his name, but he shot 20 over, which is,
wasn't
like
CT Pan, was it?
go around the normal golf course, But this French fellow, he was off the green. He chipped it. I'm pretty sure he knifed it over the green into the rough, or missed the green basically from not far away. And he literally looked at his caddy, hat off. I've had enough. No, that's me done. Literally been playing about an hour and a half, which is fucking funny really, because +5 actually made the cut in the end. So if he did steady the ship over the next 20 some odd holes that he would have had, he could have easily made the cut, but I think he released a statement. Supposedly he had a bad back, in inverted commas. But I think between me and you, O-Dub, I think he had enough, pal.
Yeah. He lost his head for sure.
Well, he's French, isn't he? Maybe we'll see him in the Olympics in a couple of weeks. We'll have to look into him.
See
him again on home soil.
I think something that you said at the start of this podcast, O-Dub, about novels and characters was quite poignant, particularly for this weekend, because I have to say, I've never fucking heard of Dan Brown, never in my life.
No, well,
other than the fact that I think there is a bloke called Dan Brown who's a fucking author.
Yeah,
and
he wrote the Da Vinci Code series.
Well, there we go. I ain't much of a reader, in case anyone didn't know that. But this guy has rocked up. I think he was 2,000 to 1 pre-tournament. Got his 2024 stats here. So he's come. These are just the random DP World Tour events that he's entered. So he came 61st, miscut, withdrawn, miscut, tied 23rd, tied 4th, tied 61st, tied 76th, miscut, tied 43rd. Was he leading after day 1?
So he was the first, because this is his first major tournament. It's not just his first Open; it's his first major ever. And he's the first person to shoot 65 on the opening day. So he was leading on 6 under by 1 stroke ahead of Lowry on 5 under. So after Thursday, Friday he shot 1 over, so went back, but was still in the sort of final grouping on Saturday. And then on Saturday, on the 18th, he was solo leader until he had a double bogey and then went back into the pack. And then today, I don't think he had that good of a day.
He didn't.
I'm not actually sure where he's finished, but
he's finishing a 10th, tied 10th.
Top 10. Yeah, so tied 10th for his opening major championship debut. And he absolutely deserved it. And he looked incredible, actually, watching him play over Thursday, Friday, and a bit of yesterday. He just looked completely unflappable. And one thing I noticed, and it was mentioned in comms on Sky, I think on Friday, about he's not like the modern player and he doesn't talk to his ball. So, like everyone takes a shot now and they'll give a running commentary like sit or like hold your line. Like they'll do some sort of comment when they're on the tee box or after they've hit it. And we probably do it as amateurs, but he barely opened his mouth. I felt like he just never opened it. He was just so like dialed into what he was doing that you couldn't believe when they showed the stats of, his career or his season so far. I couldn't believe how calm he was. The fact that he was leading for the majority or thereabouts for the majority of the whole tournament.
Yeah, he was pretty chill. One thing I noticed, and it reminded me of a sort of John Daly-esque sort of character. He was chuffing fags the whole fucking way around. Like at one point, his caddy put the umbrella up, and he shouted under the umbrella just that he could fucking light a fag and walk down the fairway to get his ball. And they interviewed him, I think, after day 1 when everyone started to realise, this fucking guy is leading the Open. and or it might have been after day 2. And basically, obviously, we've spoken about it on previous pods where, like, you know, if you're just it sounds harsh to say, but sort of like bang average sort of tour player, any missed cuts he's had, so he won't have been making money. He actually shared an Airbnb with his mates who wanted to go and watch the Open, right? So there's a house full. I'm not quite sure how many of them were there, but they basically booked an Airbnb nearby with like a hot tub and like swimming pool and all that sort of stuff. And he basically gave an interview and said, like, yeah, my mate's just been on the fucking smash for like 4 days, basically. He's been out in the hot tub till like the middle of the night. He was just like, I'd come home and it's just like a complete shit show. Apparently, when it was pissing down, they're out in the garden, sinking beers, playing cricket in the rain, and just like fizzing the ball off the dirt on the ground and stuff like that. And I just thought, what a fucking legend! Like, this guy's like living the dream. Like, he's that Open, never qualified before. Instead of like, you know, being like, oh yeah, I need to, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'll just book a gaff for my mates, have a couple of beers, few fags, try and get an early night and rock up and play a bit of golf. Like, what more is it? What more is there to do than that? I just want fucking fair play.
Mate, I hadn't heard any of that, but that does, whilst that sounds fun, he may sort of look back and regret that in the future, because, I mean, the likelihood of him ever having a chance of contending again is probably fairly slim. He'll be in next year's Open regardless, because if you finish inside the top 10, you get automatically into the next Open. Which actually, whilst I made that point, Matthew Jordan has done back-to-back top 10s in the last 2 years, because that's how he was in this tournament now, and he's finished top 10. But just going back to Dan Brown, he, I mean, that's cool, and it's a funny story, but he may sort of look back on that with a bit of regret. Because if he's, you know, he had a genuine opportunity of becoming an Open champion on debut.
Yeah, I think, in fairness to him, at his level of the level of golf that he's displayed in his career so far, which I can't claim to see a lot of, but just looking at the results, he'll still be fucking delighted, to be honest with you. And have to say, there were some far better golfers that are obviously way down the pecking order in terms of this tournament compared to what he's achieved. So to just be in there knocking around the final groups on the last day in itself is a massive achievement. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. The guy was 2,000 to 1 before the tournament. So just for the non-gamblers, if you bet each way and your bookies was playing 10 places, you would get a fifth of the odds paid out. So that is 400 to 1 still. So if you had a tenner each way on it at 2,000 to 1, you still would have won £4,000 from 20 quid. So I'd imagine his mates might have got a pretty penny if they were his mates in the Airbnb. I'd imagine someone's backed him somewhere, and they probably got away with that. You know, done a bit of a solid. But not every bookie pays top 10. So shout out Skybet, I think, if you use them. 365 top 8. So yeah. By the way, if either of those two bookies want to sponsor the pod, you know where we are. Feel free to shout us out. Another person who I was really rooting for this weekend and would have loved to have seen him get over the line was our boy Justin Rose.
It's a shame, really, that he's been pipped, because similarly he might not be in there again. You know, he had to qualify for this particular Open, so next year he won't have to do that, because I've already said the point about if you finish in the top 10, you get automatically into next year. But, you know, the chances of him, I think if you asked him, he would always say he wants to be the Open champion. And now I think that's the second time he's come very close. Second or third time he's come very close, and someone's just pipped him. So, yeah, it's a tough one for Rosie, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Go on,
well, I know you say he's one of our own, but he was born in South Africa, don't you know?
Yeah, I didn't know that, mate. But his parents are English, and he was brought up in England, and he represents England and Great Britain. So
he does, mate. I obviously I know Justin Rose, even being a casual sports fan. I quite liked in the Full Swing Drive to Survive, the heavily scripted where he's in his garden waiting for Luke Donald to give him a ring to say he's on the. Like, why would all the camera crew be there if he's not going to get a phone call? He's got all his kids gathered, ready for a phone.
Do you know where that garden is, Odub?
I think you have told me before, haven't you? But
that is on the Wentworth estate, that particular garden he was in. I don't know if you knew, but I've actually played on Wentworth Golf Course.
I did know, mate.
You had heard about that.
And the listeners know as well. A few other... He's a Chelsea fan as well, but you probably both knew that. Big Chelsea fan.
I don't know.
And his wife is a former international gymnast. So I wonder why he was attracted to her. Answers on a post. She's actually called Kate Phillips, which is very close to
your missus.
Yeah, who isn't an international gymnast but is very bendy. CC. No worries. She doesn't listen. She'll probably get a knock on the door. But yeah, a few facts about Rosie.
Brilliant.
Oh, no, Rosie had a great few days, to be honest with you, and played real steady golf the whole way around. I think he was, I don't know the best way of wording this, but he was the last person to bogey a hole, if that makes sense. So he had the most holes in a row without a bogey.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think he'd done 29.
Yeah,
so he was on the back nine of his second round before his first bogey. I think it was the 12th, which, if my maths is correct,
and obviously he finished 7 under, which is 2 shots off the lead in solo second. But he was actually very unlucky today. He had a lot of putts that were very close to day. It was just, it could have been for him. He actually hit a sublime driver off the deck coming down the stretch to get onto the green of the par 5 and 2, which he got a birdie on.
I absolutely love that shot, by the way. It's probably the only 5 minutes of it that I was able to watch today. But he took a 3-wood off the tee, but then he saw that Schauffele had laid up, or whether it was intentional or not, Schauffele put his second shot not onto the green. So he just went, I'm trying to win this. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on for days about each individual player, but I just, whilst I've noticed we're rambling on a little bit, whilst we're here, this guy has had a sublime 4 days. He's, to be honest with you, been having a bit of a stinker for 2024. And literally a few months ago was close to walking off at one of the tournaments, head in hands, fucking hating golf, playing shit, absolutely having one. And have to say, his scrambling was some of the best scrambling I've ever seen in some of the toughest conditions I've ever seen. So this is on the back 9 yesterday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are par saves, right? Talk about scrambling just to stay in it, right? So he's got up and down from 63 yards, up and down from 35 yards, up and down from 25 yards, up and down from 24 yards, up and down out of a bunker for 18 yards, and up and down out of a bunker from 15 yards. The bunker from 15 yards was up there with, in terms of greenside bunkers, one of the best bunker shots I've seen. It was ridiculous. The way where he was almost stood against the bunker wall to get the angle of the club on the ball that he got was fucking sublime, to be honest with you.
Just to clarify, because I think you might have broken up, but you were talking about Horschel, right? Oh,
yes.
Billy. Yeah. Billy, I love Billy. I met him a couple of times at Wentworth, and I have actually spoken to him, and he let me film the shot right next to him because I found his ball, and then he actually shared one of our stories on Beretta Golf. So I would say he is a friend of the podcast. Again,
come on anytime, Bill.
Yeah, never won a major, came close. Unfortunately, was just beaten by an unbelievable round by Xander. But I guess to round off this segment, let's just do a final sort of shout out to one of our favourite, definitely for me anyway, and we're always rooting for him. Shane Lowry is one of the main men, I think, in my world of golf. Anyway, I absolutely love the bloke, and it was a shame that he had such a bad back nine yesterday when it was proper tough, because he's had 3 out of 4 days that were absolutely mint, and then that back nine yesterday has basically cost him. So it was a shame for him, but he'll be back. He's also in the Olympics, so he'll go again pretty quick. And we'll wait and see. Hopefully he can get something next year.
Well,
yeah. Sorry, DB.
The Open Championship next year is at Royal Portrush, is it not?
Yes, which is where he won. So he is the defending champion at Portrush. So, yeah, watch this space. Maybe he'll go well again next year. But, yeah, I guess that's enough notable mentions. I think we've covered the main ones there.
Just one more before we go. We're going to talk about the conditions and such. Si Woo Kim with his hole-in-one.
Yeah, that was good. Good stroke. I've seen
now
that.
my TikTok algorithms are becoming more and more diluted with golf content, which is excellent. But that would have passed it. That was great. He looked like he had quite a flamboyant shirt on, like yourself, AB. Yeah. But he just looked quite shocked, and he was just so happy. It was great.
That actually segues in rather nicely to our next segment, OW, just before we finish off, and I will tell you for why. Because on the hole that he got hole in one on. I don't know if you noticed by TikTok algorithm, it was a par 3, but he used it was, I can't remember which one it was, but he used an iron off the tee. I want to say the hole is about 210 yards, and he did that fairly early on in the day, yesterday, I think, wasn't it? And then yesterday afternoon, when Xander was playing, the wind was straight against the golfer, and I was actually listening on the radio at this point. The commentator said that as a result of the was actually playing 270 yards as a par 3. Xander hit a full 3-wood, and he said he hit it as clean as he could and as hard as he could, and it looked like a layup. He came up quite short, so that just shows the difference in the conditions when you are playing a links course at certain times of the day or at certain days. Like, it can be really, really with you, or it can be really, really against you.
Yeah. So just on the overall conditions, and we talk about the variables of the Open Championship, but I think it's well, I know for a fact, I don't think factually everyone plays the course 1 to 18. So there's not a 2T start like you have in the US Open and the PGA Championship. The Masters, they obviously more often than not have better weather than the Open does. And you'll play sort of 1 to 18 at the Masters, but it's a smaller field. So your tee off time window is not as great as it is for the Open. So with the Open Championship being about 150 odd, maybe even like close to 200 golfers, the first tee time is 6:30 in the morning, and there will be a group that goes out. I think on Thursday and Friday, the last tee time was about 3:45 in the afternoon. So you've got guys playing their round 12 hours. By the time they're finishing, they're playing 12 hours after the first guys are. So that window of, I guess, where the weather and the conditions can change, it's partly one of the reasons why so many of the big names and inside the top 20 missed the cut on Thursday and Friday. The likes of Rory, when he went out on Thursday, he was mid-morning. He missed a 3-hour window of decent weather and went straight out into wind and rain. And it wasn't just him; there was many others, and there was things that they could have done better themselves. But the luck of the draw is a real factor in winning an Open Championship as well, I'd say.
You just sort of suggested it, but the first 2 days, that's completely random. Your pairings and your tee time.
Yeah, it's just drawn. Yeah, I think there will be some sort of method because they put some flagship players together. Okay. But in terms of your tee time, the groupings I think are probably manufactured, and they'll just pick it however they want to. But in terms of you're going to start on Thursday at this time, then you normally, if you're in the morning, then on Friday you'll go out in the afternoon, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But then if you're really unlucky, like a lot of them were, like first thing on Thursday, the first 3 hours, Justin Rose got off to a really good start because he was out, I think, at 7:45 on Thursday. And, he was under par for, we said, his first 20 odd holes. Whereas Rory's group, Tyrrell Hatton, these guys went out and their first tee shot was straight into wind and rain. And that just got worse on Thursday. And then it was even worse on Friday. So they just had the worst of the conditions. And then if you're trying to play the course as you've planned to, and you don't adjust for the conditions, you're fucked, basically, which is what happened to a lot of players who just, out of stubbornness, didn't adapt to the conditions properly. But that's a variable. The tee time and the draw is one of the biggest variables in the Open compared to any other major because of the margin of time where the conditions can change.
I think you shared it at the time maybe, but I also was watching it live. But after it was even mid-Friday, they put the worst score of each hole up, and I think it was 124.
Yeah. It ended up becoming 126. So if if you took the worst score from every hole across that Friday, it was 126 over par. No, sorry, 126 shots, which was 56 over par or something stupid like that,
isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's mad. I think let's round off with one final point because we have rambled on a little bit. But basically, the last fortnight, so we've had the Scottish Open, we've had the Open, and I think the only other one that's on the calendar, I don't know specifically when it is, but is the Irish Open, which I think is also links. That's, a maximum of 8 to 12 days on the calendar across all the tours that's played on links courses. And I think the 2 weekends that we've just had in Scotland, but this time they were both in Scotland, but obviously the Open moves around the British Isles. But the point I'm getting at is, do we think that is enough links golf on the professional circuit? Because to me, I would rather watch that sort of stuff more often than the actual courses, most of the courses in America and things like this.
Yeah, well, look, links golf, to be honest with you, is almost a different fucking sport. It's complete different challenge, different. You have to play completely different shots than what you play on other golf courses. You get yourself in spots you don't get. The bunkers are different. The rough's different. I personally find it ridiculously harder just to play. There should definitely be more of it on the tour. I think, not getting into the old PGA and LIV debate or the DP World Tour and LIV debate, but one thing that, LIV is trying to encompass is this idea of like a global tour, and they're trying to visit more countries and experience more audiences in different conditions, vice versa and whatnot. Links is something that is definitely overlooked. I think there's something like only like 250 links golf courses in the whole world or something like that. And
most of them being Britain.
Yeah. And
Ireland, Britain and Ireland. So
they should definitely play more over here and do that, because, you want to see the best players in the toughest conditions. Whilst it's nice that some players can shoot 25 under on tour around a lovely course at a country club just outside of like New York or wherever it might be, it would be cool to see a 6 to 8 week period, where they do 2 or 3 courses in Scotland, couple in Ireland, couple in Liverpool, wherever it might be, and really get the tough kind of conditions and experiences that us as British amateur golfers pay tons of money to go and enjoy, really.
The devil's advocate thing I'm putting to that argument is with the sort of player power behind the PGA and that sort of thing. Do they want less variables when they're playing tournaments, and maybe too many links courses would throw the cat amongst the
Yeah, I think
is that what it's going to be. And also I think maybe sponsors as well. Maybe, you know, like Rolex, people like that want nice backdrops to their logos everywhere and that sort of thing. The money.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Odub. And I think maybe we would need to discuss it in full on another pod. But you're right. I think the tour, the predominant tour is the PGA Tour, which is pretty much wholly in America, apart from the last 2 weekends where they have a co-event now, which used to be fully European Tour, but now it's a co-PGA event. So they claim the Scottish Open and the Open now. But DB's called it. It's corporate stuff. So the sponsors dictate, and like you say, the courses and everything. I don't know. I thought it is maybe, Liv trying to shake it up, and some of the guys that have gone over there were sort of, maybe angling this sort of opinion. We can cover it in another pod, I reckon. In more detail. But
just quickly on the player power, though, Odub, you're probably a little bit right with that, because I'm pretty sure it was last year when it was at Royal Liverpool or wherever it was that basically after day one, loads of them complained about the bunkers, and they had to go get a load more sand and make them not as deep and change the lie of the walls of the bunkers to make it easier for the players to get out.
Interesting.
But again, that probably brings us on to another pod. So just to wrap up, because we've rambled on for 51 minutes here, there will be a couple of updates on the next pod, because there is some breaking news. I managed to get myself up to Brampton Heath in the middle of the week, which, for those of you who don't know, is AB's home course. And we had a showdown of one of the evenings. I don't know what day it was. Was it Wednesday?
Yeah.
So we will have a debrief on that at some point. And also, I am on somewhat of a domestic golf trip this week, visiting my good golfing friends down in Cornwall. I'm playing at Truro Golf Club, which I'm an affiliate member of. And the week started today, but it is their golf week, which is an annual week that they have every calendar year, different events every single day. So I am playing today, which was Sunday, right the way through to Friday. So literally 6 days in a row, or however many days that is, in all different events. And there will be a big debrief, because that is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 6 different events. I've got different teams in every single one. And Friday tops off with the annual Pro-Am, which will be the first Pro-Am I've ever played in. We've managed to rope a former, I suppose, opponent of mine on the cricket pitch into, he's now a successful golf professional down here in Cornwall.
Is it Barry Purchase?
It's not Barry Purchase. Hancock from Newquay. He is the pro at Trelawney and Radnor. He's been doing some big things, and I look forward to playing with him down at Truro, and I will keep everyone updated on socials as much as possible, but stay tuned for a fucking mega breakdown, because that's a lot of golf for me.
How the other half live, eh? I've got Bretto Golf doesn't, and if buts and maybe doesn't pay the bills. I'm not going to work tomorrow, but how the other half live?
Yeah, well, I mean, the tee times during the week are after 4 to 4:30 p.m. So I will be working during the days.
Good.
I'll be getting up there for about 3:30 most days, I think.
Nice.
Buzzing. Right. Look forward to hearing about it next week. Let's.
I'm sure you do look forward to hearing about it, AV. I'm sure you do.
All right.
Hopefully, I'll still be here.
Yeah.
You'll
be here, mate. Right. Well done.
Cheers, guys.
Well done, mate.
That was good, actually. I think that was one of the better ones we've done.
It's hard, because we could have spoken about it for like ages. I could have reeled that out for like 2.5 hours, I think. So much shit fucking going on.
I felt like I've lived in the west coast of Scotland for the last 4 days.